What's up, everybody? It's AJ Lester here with Trax TV, and I'm bringing you a brand new product from Can-Am. This is the 2023 XMR 700. So this is the new power plant for Can-Am, the one that they run the 500 and 700 off of. It's a 650. So 650 cc's. In this variation as the 700, they're pumping 50 horsepower out of this motor. It is a single cylinder. It is rotated the opposite direction than we're used to seeing Can-Am's motors because they usually have V-twins. So on the clutch side of things, it runs through the P-drive, and Can-Am has had the P-drive for a while. They've used it on snowmobiles, they use it on ATVs. It's a really efficient clutch system. That clutch works really well, and it's just much freer, much less restriction. Works better all the way around. So you're gonna notice that this is a much more efficient drive line than the previous generation Can-Am. So pretty cool that way. One of the things everybody who's seen this XMR said is, wow, it doesn't look like an XMR. And it does, but it doesn't. Has a rad relocate. It has this plate up front that we sort of expected would have said like XMR or Can-Am or something up front. It doesn't, it's just kind of, you know, cut out. The rad relocate looks very mellow. The air intake is very mellow. The big like XMR 1000, you know, with the huge snorkel on it, and it looks like a freaking stegosaurus horn on there. Like it looks like you're ready to go to war in the mud. This is like you like to go play in the mud, but you're not quite sure that you want to go play in the mud. Gearing on this, as we've experienced, we're not certain that they really re-geared all that much. Maybe in the clutches they changed some weights and whatnot. It feels like it goes the exact same speed as our Camo 700 does. So not exactly sure how that's gonna perform in the mud. We will find out very soon. I think Luke's doing the test ride on it, so he's gonna get muddy. Now you'll say, okay, you know, you think that it's a bit of a softer XMR, which I think you can say it is. And from looking at it, it looks that way. When you get down to the tires, it's got the XPS, what do they call them, a Swamp King. I'm a fan of not using your own branded tires because to me, it just screams Chinese, which these probably are made in China somewhere. I would much rather see a set of ITPs on here, and Can-Am's done that in the past, and I think that that's a more premium product when you put it on there. However, that being said, you gotta cut retail price in some ways, and this is not an XMR 1000. If you want an XMR 1000, go spend like twice the price and you'll get that. So there is areas that they gotta cut back on. I don't know, something, it irks me. It's like, you know, if it said Nankang on it, I'd be like, oh, it makes sense because an XPS branded tire does not scream primo to me. That being said, they're not a bad tire. It is aggressive. Is it a Swamp King? No, I don't really think that it's as Swamp King as maybe it says. You know, if it had a lug that was a little bit larger and a bit more reliefs in there, maybe. It's still a nice tire, 8-inch up front. It's 10-inch in the back. So these are not like your big traditional wide sets. They're not a square tire. It's a little bit more narrow, but that's what the 700 Camo version has on it too, is a 10 in the back and an 8 up front. Nothing wrong with it. It's just this, it is what everybody has said who's seen it. They're like, is that really an XMR? And it's just a little bit downgraded from what we're used to seeing from Can-Am. But it does have nice things like this is this generation's XMR front bumper. It has, you know, nice racks on the back so you can put stuff back here. I do like the overall ergonomics and feel of Can-Am's new platform. It is really nice. This backspace is infinitely usable. It has link attachments on the side so you can put stuff in here. Center space, I like how it's dropped down. I think this makes sense. I haven't really used them all that much for taking stuff anywhere because if I'm going anywhere with any great amount of quantity of stuff, I put it in the back of a side-by-side. That's just where I'm at in my life. But this I can see as being very useful. And for somebody who wants to go to the hunt camp and you're going through the forest and maybe there is the need to pack a whole bunch of stuff on here and the trails are too narrow for going in a side-by-side, this makes all the sense in the world. I like the layout that Can-Am's put on here. Now there really isn't much of our rear bumper. There is these lower supports that go down to the ground or go down to the rear bumper for the 2-inch receiver. That's all right. I think this thing will pull, I believe, I will clarify this, but I believe it says that this will pull 1,800 pounds, which sounds insane to me for an ATV, but it's pretty solid pulling capacity. Rear racks, I believe you can put 240 pounds on there, and up front, it still says in the description for this vehicle that you can put 120 pounds up front. Not sure where you're gonna put it, but supposedly you can put 120 pounds on the front rack. You can get creative with that, but I don't think I'd be putting anything up there. XMRs should always come with winches. I don't care if it increases the retail price, which it will, they should always come with winches, because if you're going out and you're taking this thing first day, you just bought it, you went out by yourself and made a complete rookie mud running move and didn't bother to put a winch on or take a buddy with you, you're gonna regret that real quick. So if you buy one of these, or if you're looking to buy one of these, don't even leave the showroom floor without having the dealership install one or going home with one and doing it yourself. You can do it yourself because it's very easy, but just don't do it. I mean, it'd be like buying a Tesla and not buying a charger. These are things you just don't do. So don't do it with an XMR either, all right? The XMR 700 has 13 inches of ground clearance, very respectable. Nothing wrong with that. Works really good. Suspension and travel feel comfortable. They feel solid. They are steel body, you know, snail cam adjuster, preload shocks. There's nothing really super fancy about those, but there doesn't need to be, because this is your budget conscious XMR. It is not your XMR 1000. So you need to differentiate, and I guess I need to differentiate that as well, because a lot of the times I look at it and I go, well, this doesn't look like a 1000 XMR. It's not, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be. The rest of the buggy itself, you got DESS, you got tri-mode power steering, you got Visco 4-lock, so you can let that diff and you know, really claw through the mud. Like I said, you got that 13 inches of ground clearance, and you have this beautiful new plastic setup on this new platform. I mean, I talked about the tires. The rims I think are actually really nice, and they look a lot like previous Can-Am generation rims, but I actually really like these ones, and I think they're quite nice looking. You don't need to go out and get an aftermarket set of rims. It has the XMR foot pegs, but then the bodywork, like I was talking about, it's real clean. It is a lot like new tech cars and trucks, where you really can't get to too much because everything is covered in plastic, but no more seeing, you know, the V-twin valve covers, you know, out to the side, and being able to look in a little bit and seeing the shifter linkage, you know, down on the old G1s and whatnot. It's very tidy, very, very clean. Fit and finish, Can-Am is known for it. I mean, they do a great flipping job with fit and finish, and it's only getting better every single generation, every iteration, everything they do and update. Doesn't matter if it's snowmobiles, Sea-Doos, Spyders, whatever. All their stuff is super tidy, and it's getting better. So props to you, Can-Am. I know I'm hard on your tires, but you guys are doing a good job with fit and finish. Now, the other thing that I really like is behind the handlebars on this vehicle, the big, huge, you know, rhino horn snorkel on the 1000 kind of got in the way. And while it looked cool and aggressive, yeah, it needed to be up high so that you could get extra, you know, water clearance. This one's lower, but it definitely doesn't interrupt your sight line. So I find this to be a much more trailable XMR, which, let's be honest, it's like, you know, it's like crossover snowmobiles on the snowmobile side of things. Probably 70% of the time people are driving them on trails. And when it comes to XMRs like this one, not the 1000, probably 70% of the time this is going to be on a trail getting to somewhere muddy, or when you get somewhere muddy and all the other guys go, no, I'm not doing it. The guy with the XMR 700 says, yeah, I'll go for that. So this gives you better sight lines up front. The rad relocate is rolled back. It's lower. It's definitely not as imposing looking, and it's also not as imposing to you with your sight lines. So I can appreciate that. Back here behind the handlebars, the gauge is very simple. You know, just straightforwards, doesn't need to be anything better. But when it comes to switches for stuff like, you know, extra lights, if you want to put a whip on it, lots of people are putting stereos on. So if you want to power a 12-volt stereo up front and strap it on somewhere, you can do that. But I appreciate the fact that the switches are right here to be cut out. So you just notch those out or Dremel them or use a knife, you know, and you can pop your switches in. You don't have to look for a spot. And on ATVs, that's something that's kind of new, because most other ATVs have zero place for switches. You got to drill it in somewhere. Usually in behind is the inner part of the fender well, and that's just going to be bad for wiring. So really like that a lot. Other thing that's cool, it has a great glove box on it. Now, if you come over here, I can show you. It's very integrated, kind of where the gas cap used to be on all other ATVs in the past. Let's take out our ownership. And inside of here, it's not huge, but it has a USB outlet right there with 2 USB plugs. So you can plug in whatever you want. Your phone probably is going to be the number one. And it actually has a charging pad right here for you to set your phone in. So you can drop your phone inside of here. Everything's good to go. It's pre-wired. It's ready to rock. And then you can fit stuff in there, like your ownership, your wallet, your phone sits in there. It won't take too much more. I don't think you can actually fit a bottle of water in here. So, you know, it's smaller, but it's still very functional for the important things that you need. Something else I want to tell you about is the shifting. Now, Can-Ams in the past have had a little problem. You know, people always talk about the Audi hump. You gotta hump the seat to get it to rock into gear. I know that sounds funny, but if you look it up, you're gonna find out it's just the truth. That's the way that they've always worked. This one is so freely shifting. The engineers at Can-Am have done a great job at fixing that problem. No longer do you rock them back and forth to get it in and out of gear. Doesn't happen, it goes in nice. I mean, I'm not even trying. I'm barely pushing on it. If I had to say what it feels like, it feels Japanese. And that's a respect thing for the Japanese guys because they make some of the best ATVs when it comes to the actual function and longevity and durability. So that's a big respect for them, and actually it's a big respect for Can-Am because they're starting to build stuff that has that quality feel, and I think this is going to be a really durable shifter. So I like that a lot because the last thing you want is to be, you know, shifting from forwards to reverse, plowing snow in the winter time. You're doing that like 400 times, you know, during the time that you're out plowing the big driveway. And it drives you nuts when you got to do that, right? When you got to sit here and, you know, rock the thing back and forth and it won't go into gear and it's making you frustrated. So I really like the shifter that they put on this. As I said before, it's got the front diff lock, so it's got the Visco 4 lock. On top of that, it's got the ITC drive mode, so you can adjust your drive mode because it is drive-by-wire throttle. Feels weird. It's something that, I mean, I know a lot of ATVs have now. I don't know if I'll ever get totally used to it, but it does work really well, and it's very functional. And the inputs, the hand controls, everything's super tidy. So when it comes to your hand controls, it's really simplified. Everything's right where you want it. It's really easy to understand. And they've gone with another generation of hand controls. I mean, Can-Am switches more than anyone else in the industry, and their stuff is always really, really top drawer, looks good, functions properly, has the right labeling on it, and is just really nice to interact with. So behind the handlebars, this is a really nice ATV. And as I said before, the sight lines are really good up front. Now, we're gonna get this thing dirty. We're gonna take it out and beat on it and, you know, toss it in a swamp and see what happens. I don't think we need to expect that it's gonna be an XMR 1000 because it just isn't. That's not the vehicle that it is. So I'm not sure what to expect at 50 horsepower out of the 650cc single. I'm interested to find out. We really like the 700 camo Outlander that we have. We think it's a really nice ATV and everybody's been happy with it. Slapping a big set of mud tires on there when it feels like the gearing and the clutching isn't all that different, I don't know. I don't know what it's gonna be. I don't know how it's gonna turn out. I don't know if Luke's gonna get crazy stuck and he's gonna be calling me saying, I thought this thing would go further and it didn't. I don't know, but we'll find out and you'll find out too. And I'm interested to see what happens. So before we go anywhere, I'm gonna start this up. I'm gonna rev it up a little bit for you and you can get a feel for what it sounds like. The intake, it's not all that much different. It's not like the XMR 1000 where it sounds a lot different. So we'll start it up and let you hear what it sounds like. Oh, I better turn the kill switch on. There's a slight bit of intake noise. I think maybe you can hear it. But again, when it comes to Can-Am, they're always refining, and intake noise isn't necessarily what you want to have all the time. Although it's kind of like intake noise on a performance car. You love the sound of it. There's nothing wrong with it. But this is a refined ATV. One thing I didn't touch on is the headlights. The LEDs up front are really nice. You know, Can-Am's always good at that stuff, but they've had those LED headlights on other models, so you're kind of used to that. To wrap it all up, I'm interested to see how it handles. I think it needed to come with a winch. The tires, the jury's still out. I'm not upset about the tires, but I probably would have liked to see an ITP or something similar, you know. But at the end of the day, this is a really nice ATV. You know, the high arched A-arms, the different things they put on here, the nice 13 inches of ground clearance, the rack capacity, the fact that it has a decent rack in the back. These are all good things. And really, as I said before, I don't think the XMR guy who's buying a 700 is in the mud every single day. I think you're using it for a whole lot more. You like the look of the mud tires in the showroom. You do get dirty every once in a while, but you want an ATV that's gonna do a whole lot more than just an XMR 1000 would have done. This is gonna do that. I think it's gonna keep more people happy. I think it's gonna be a great all-around ATV, and I think the durability and longevity of it is gonna be something that we'll all be blown away with 10 years down the road. So yeah, good on you, Can-Am. Lots of cool stuff, lots of cool features, lots of easy to remove panels, lots of stuff that's covered up nicely and looks good. It's a pretty ATV. I'd probably buy one. Go to your dealer showroom. Have a look.